mamas and dads that are homeschooling. I just wanted to go through and just kind of give some highlights of what we do, like when we get our materials from Abeka. I know that a lot of people will do the Abeka Academy, and so I'm going to talk mostly about that, but a lot of the stuff applies to parent-led as well. So if y'all just want to come follow along, and just hopefully it'll give some encouragement and some just sharing of how you can do it. You don't have to do it this way. This is just how we kind of do it, and hopefully it'll just kind of take some stress off your plate to know when you get your stuff, you know, how you can approach it. So I'm just going to highlight what we do when we get our academy stuff, or even with parent-led. We made a switch here at the last minute, and we are doing the academy for second grade for some subjects, and I also have the curriculum guides for second grade as well. So I'm just going to show when you get your stuff. I know, like, for some grades it can be 4 or even 5 boxes of stuff, and it can be kind of overwhelming. So I just wanted to kind of go through and show what my process is. This is our 10th year using Abeka. This is our 5th year using the Academy, and we've been doing parent-led and Academy back and forth for the last 4 or 5 years. So when you get your second grade stuff, or 5th grade or K-5, you get a video manual, you get your tests, keys, and your test booklets for students. Get your writing booklets, your reading textbooks, your science and history and health textbooks, activity book, and then your student workbooks. And we have spiral bound these 3, and I start that in 2nd or 3rd grade. Up until this point, we usually just tear everything out because it's easier, and they just aren't really good with keeping up with their books and keeping them in good condition at that young age that I've had experience with. So we tear out, and then around 2nd or 3rd grade, we spiral bind them to keep it all together. It's just easier because when it opens up, it lays flat so you can write. And I know some people have left-handed children, and I have heard of people spiral binding it at the top, which makes it so this is not in the way. The actual spiral isn't in the way when a lefty is writing. So from Abeka, they don't come spiral bound, but we did for my 2nd grader. But the first thing, excuse me, the first thing we do is I look through the video manual. In the front, it gives you just so much information about the lessons and grading. It gives you a sample. And then in the whole video manual, it gives you all the information for each lesson, for each subject, things you'll need, the papers you'll need, the books you'll need. And this is such a good guide. For the younger grades, I really truly believe this is all you need. I know there are different resources out there, but I really believe that this video manual that Abeka gives you is very, very thorough. I believe that most of the stuff that they talk about in the class and they say you need is in there. There are a couple of hiccups here and there where they forget to write something in here, but for the most part, Abeka has done an amazing job with their video manuals. So this is what you want to look through first, just to give you an idea of what's going on. And then next, we kind of flip through the student text. I always like doing that just to see where, they're starting out, what they know. And you'll see at the bottom of the page, it says which lesson it is, and it'll say classwork and seat work. Classwork is what you'll do with the teacher, and then seat work is what they'll do extra. And so you'll see that for every lesson, they'll have pages. Starting in 2nd grade, every single lesson they'll have pages to do. And this is something that this is where the meat of our schooling happens. In my opinion, we do the worksheets, we show what we know, and the extra seat work is not always necessary, so we don't always do that. Copy work and stuff like that, it's just kind of filler. But what we try to do is just stick with at least the worksheets. And so you'll see that the lessons, and about 5 to 6 weeks in, it's review of what they've already learned, which I really like that about Abeka, because it's so repetitive that if you're behind or you're struggling, you can catch up, and you can just have a lot of review to know where you're going. And it's just a good spiral teaching approach that I really think is great. And if there are things that my children know and it's frustrating because, oh, Mom, I already did that, I already know that, we skip it. We say, okay, you do know this, but you've got to make sure your kid does know it. It's not just them trying to get out of it because they don't know it, and so they say, oh, but I do know it, so I don't have to do it. So you want to make sure that they do know it, but Abeka is really good with reviewing and repeating and making sure that the information is very much, it's there in what they need for what they're learning. Then we have the spelling and poetry, and so I just look through each book and just see what my kid's going to be learning in the very beginning, towards the middle, towards the end. And it can get overwhelming, and sometimes with different kids, you know, flipping through it, it can overwhelm them. So just be aware of that and say, hey, maybe, you know, you don't have to look through it all. You don't have to look at, you know, what the tests are going to cover and stuff like that, because it can be overwhelming. So don't let it overwhelm you. Just look through it just so you know and have a guide. And then these are the reading books that they will use throughout the year. And then health, science, history, the activity books, and then the reading comprehension skills book. And then, so I look through all the student stuff, and then I come over and look through the parent stuff. You have the test keys, and I don't have it sitting here, but the answer keys for language and phonics and math and spelling. So it has the answer keys, so you can know how to grade it, what they're learning, and what the answers are supposed to be. So this is just a quick overview of just going through it. And then what I do is I do not jump in right then because it can be kind of overwhelming. So I let it sit a day, 2 days, when I can get back to it. I have 7 kids, so there's some times where we don't get back to it for several days. And then what I like to do is get the manual, and since we just got this today, I haven't been able to do this yet, but I go through and I go to the first day worth of lessons, and I just familiarize myself with everything that they've written down. They give such good notes of what is happening and what needs to be learned and what they're going to be doing, and just setting up routines. And so I like to go through and I like to highlight the pages that the kids are going to need. And I don't do this for the whole year because just to be honest, I kind of forget, and once we get in a good routine, it's not as necessary. But for the first several weeks, I'll go through and highlight, what pages. Like this says phonics and language, page 1. So I highlight that so I know that that's the page they're working on that day. And then, go through the first week and then the second week and do that. Where it says test, you make sure you highlight that so it's just a reminder. And then every day when we sit down to do school, I glance at that day's worth of lessons, just of the things that I highlighted, and I take notes. I put notes on it, and I reminders, and hey, don't forget this. You're going to need these worksheets, or you're going to need, counting bears, or you're going to need, different things, just little notes. And then I also have a planner that I use for my 3 youngest that I'm schooling this year, where I write down we're going to be working on lesson 12. We're going to be working on lesson 12 in language page 10 and different things like that, just as a guide. I don't write everything down because with the video manual, it's not necessary to have every single thing written down. This is your guide. This is your planner that you're going to use. Now, I will say for the older grades, and my daughter started it in 4th grade, I started writing everything from the video manual into her planner, and it had the same information, you know, these pages you're going to do here. This is your quiz. This is the end. That helped her. She would highlight when she got finished with that, and it would be almost like a checklist every day. And that's something that we started in 4th grade, and now she is she has started 8th grade, and she is completely independent on her own with Abeka Academy. And I am very thankful for that because it's something that we've worked towards, of her being more independent and more aware of her lessons and just responsible for her own learning. So, and then I just wanted to say that if it looks overwhelming, don't put it off for weeks. I'm not saying that, but just know and break it up into piles. If you want to break it up and say, okay, this is our reading language pile, this is our math pile, this is our activities pile, and just break it up so it's just not, it's not such big, huge bites of stuff. It's just little bites that you can take and just go through. And if this is your first year homeschooling, which I know it's 2020 and a lot of people, this is their first year homeschooling. So please know that this is normal for you to be overwhelmed. It really is. And if you're not overwhelmed, that doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. That just, you're just, absorbing things differently. So don't think that if you're not overwhelmed, then that means you're not doing enough. But just know that things can be overwhelming. Just take it a little bit at a time and know that Abeka is amazing for guiding you, and it's literally open and go. I hope that this has been helpful and encouraging and just kind of giving you a jumping off point for when your books arrive and you're just overwhelmed. There are several Facebook groups for the Academy and for Parent-Led for Abeka, and that is probably the one thing that I see the most with people is they say, I just got my stuff and I don't know what to do. I'm overwhelmed. Where do I even start? So hopefully this has been where I can just give you a glimpse and just remind you that you're great parents. You're doing a great job. And by deciding to homeschool, it is overwhelming, but you can do it. And there are tons of moms and dads out there that are doing it. And just know that we're thinking of everybody and praying for y'all, and always feel free to reach out to me here at Farmhouse of Blessings, either on my Instagram or Facebook page, or here in the comments on YouTube. So I hope y'all have a great school year, and please let us know how we can, encourage you and help. And thanks y'all so much, and have a great day.